Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Orthodox Spirit here at St. Mercurius and St. Abram with Archdeacon Arsani.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how about you?
Good to have you here.
How are you? How's everything?
I'm doing good, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about Father Luka, which
Yes.
is your father.
Yes.
Yeah, can you give us a little bit of history and maybe how it was kind of growing up?
He was ordained in 1967 by the hands of Pope Kyrillos
Wow.
at St. Mina Monastery on March 17th. And he served at St. George Coptic Orthodox Church in Sporting alongside Abuna Bshoy Kamil and Abuna Tadrus Malati. 1977, he came and served here in Los Angeles at St. Mark for 2 years. After Abuna Bshoy passed in 1979, His Holiness Pope Shenouda of blessed memory asked him to go back to St. George in Alexandria because, the passing of Abuna Bshoy was a great event that happened that he needed to be back in Sporting. So we went back for 10 years from 1979 to 1989, in which there were so many incidents that happened, starting with, there was a lot of turmoil in Egypt, and there was a lot of issues between the people, Christians, Muslim confrontations, mostly attacks from fanatics. One of which was the bomb or the 7 sticks of dynamite that were thrown at our church while we were praying the liturgy Christmas Eve. That's 1980. Then the imprisonment that happened in 1981. He was in prison for 7 months. Clergy have been taken into custody for quite some time. I think the shortest period of time that people spent in prison from clergy perspective, because he had taken basically 7 bishops and 24 priests, alongside dozens of laymen. So the first group of people that came out was in January. So from September to January, that is 4 months.
Right.
And then we came back here in 1989. He was asked to come and start St. Mercurius and St. Abram, where we are in right now. And he served here for the rest of his life, going back to Egypt every year for a month to visit his flock in St. George Sporting.
Yeah. And can you maybe touch on the imprisonment part? How did that affect you growing up?
This was a very difficult time on the entire church.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ambiguity on what would happen. But to give a little bit of a perspective on this incident, this time, or that era of time, Christians were being persecuted loudly and clearly everywhere, to the point where, Alexandria University has dorms. So people from other cities, at that time there weren't too many universities in Egypt, so a lot of people would be coming over to the main cities for school.
Okay.
So the students in the university would be in the dorm that have no home in Alexandria, and we were accustomed to them coming knocking on our door at night, 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, bleeding from an attack. So they would, fanatics would, even within the dorm, would attack the Christians, beat them up, So many different stories. Excuse me.
And this was a regular thing?
So that was a regular thing that, our door would be, someone would be knocking at that door at 3, 4 a.m. One or two of these students that have been attacked, and Dad would take them and would go, to the governor or any other officials, and to try to remedy the issue and take care of it. So on that day when we woke up, it was like, "Where's Dad?" It was like normal. He went to the governor or the governorate or whatever. Incidentally, at that time, I had a couple of priests that are in the diocese with us today. They were still laymen as deacons, and they were sleeping in my room. So we woke up in the morning, is like asking where he went, and my mom said, he left with the police at 3 o'clock in the morning. A couple of days later, this was, not a couple of days, the next day actually, because this was, Thursday, really early in the morning. On Friday, we do see his name alongside a couple of other people, including Mbab Shoy and Abu Tadros, on the first page of the newspaper, the government newspaper, that they were being taken into prison.
Right.
Now, there was a lot of ambiguity at the time as like, what's going to happen? Where are they? What did they do? Any of any of these questions were not answered. So there was no clear answer, or there was no answer at all, actually, as to what's going on.
Right.
This was September 3rd. September 5th. So that went on TV in a congressional meeting to put a lot of the incidents in perspective in front of the people. Some of which that he has taken measures due to the issues that is happening between Christians and Muslims. So he has taken Christian leaders into prison, as well as Muslim leaders, the people who thought to be the igniters of the issues. But in reality, it's anybody who had a voice, or anybody who had any kind of popularity. But there was a really big spectrum of people. There was a gentleman who was 80 years old, and there was a 16-year-old.
Wow.
And from all over Egypt. Alexandria, Cairo, all the way down south. This period of time, it was very difficult due to, again, I'm repeating myself, but it's the ambiguity. You don't know what's happening.
Right.
And we were told that the first visitation would happen on October 6th, which is supposedly the day they celebrate victory.
Right.
So we traveled to Cairo, and I remember that clearly. And we were sitting in front of television watching the parade, and then Sadat got shot.
Wow.
And when he did get shot, we got shot because we couldn't. There was no.
Right.
We couldn't go visit anymore. It's been a month. We haven't seen or heard anything, so we couldn't go. So we went back home, and we stayed the period of. I would say there was the first period about 40 days. Where they spent in a certain jail in Cairo, and then they were transferred to a separate jail, or a different jail in Wadi Natrun, in front of Abu Ma'ar monastery. Now, this first jail was basically cells, and it was a more concentrated jail. So it's a jail inside a jail. So the cells were very narrow, and they're like, as they measured them, it's 1 meter by 1.7 meter. And you would have 2 or 3 people in there, and just a hole in the ground as a bathroom. And you lived in that 23 and a half hours out of 24 hours. You had half an hour of recreation to where you got out of there and you walked around for half an hour. Wow. Now, these cell walls are solid iron, and they're very high, and they have no covering on top. It's just a mesh. So imagine the heat of Cairo in September and all the insects you can ever think of, because this jail is around a farmland. So, mosquitoes, well-fed mosquitoes coming in, and the heat the entire day, and sleeping on nothing pretty much. It's they have what they call a mattress. It's I think this rug is thicker than that mattress. And 2 or 3 people in this tiny little area, and obviously no privacy, nothing at all.
Right.
And the food is as disgusting as they ever could be. I don't want to get into gruesome details, but it is really disgusting. Completely, they bring it in buckets, and their hands are filthy, and they're using like a plate or something to scoop with, and it's all on top of it. It's beyond human. So it's completely inhumane. They didn't really talk about it too much, but even in his memoirs, Father Luka didn't write too much detail about that. But obviously we spoke about it, and we know how,
And what do you think are, I'm sure you can kind of specify what the root cause of going around imprisoning people like that? Or do you think it was just to deter the message they were sending?
Well, there is more than one message, and you can hear different messages from different people. But one of the messages they had was that this was a balance, to balance between Christians and Muslims.
Wow.
But the reality of it is that none of the people that they took on the Christian side, I don't know about the Muslim side, but all I can speak about is what I know, is that they had no accusation against them.
Right.
There's nothing that they did. You know how priests and bishops are. They just serve.
Yeah.
They're not into politics. They're not into any kind of argumental issues. They're not into, they don't, gather people to go on strikes or to go against the government or to do any kind of rebellious movements. It's not their job.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that the entire government was anti-Christian. So you would not see any Christian being hired in a high rank, whether in police or in government or in any schools, government controlled. At that time, there was nothing but government controlled schools.
Yeah.
So, and that's been the case since the 70s. They usually take the first 2 or 3 from each year to become, to continue their studies and become professors in school. Whenever there was like 4 or 5 people, the 4th is a Christian, they take the first 3. If the first became a Christian, they don't take any that year. So it's very clear.
Right.
And the messages were so clear. And that's, again, from early 70s.
Yeah.
And it has escalated and augmented and created, a big gap of non-existent Christians in any post. So you cannot go into a police station and find a Christian officer.
Yeah.
No, not happening. You cannot go into finding a Christian judge. You cannot find in certain professions like physicians. If they would like to go into a certain specialty, they wouldn't let them. So this discrimination was happening across the entire sector of any kind of posts in Egypt.
Yeah.
That's why you'd find people like Dr. Magdi Yaqub, who left Egypt because of things like that. Others also that left Egypt for the same matter, and they succeeded outside, but they wouldn't give him a chance in Egypt. But regardless, this time. So I go back to what I was saying is like the first 40 days or 35 days they spent in this very high security prison. But when after Sadat was killed, they wanted to use this prison to put the criminals that killed Sadat and all the Muslim brotherhoods and all their sects in it. So they moved the clergy out of it and moved them to a different area and whatnot. And then they brought them back 45 days later, but not to the cells, but rather to the outside jail. So less security.
Right.
And when they did that, they had them in kind of a bunker. So all of them together. This is when we started going to visit. So I think our first visitation happened after maybe 3 months or 4 months after Dad was taken.
And how old were you at the time?
I was, that was 1982. That I was 14, 15 years old.
And do you think that experience kind of shaped your perspective on things? Or was one of the experiences that might
I
have?
am pretty sure it did, whether I realized it or not, but it was a very difficult time for a teenager.
Right.
Because we were put under so much pressure from the time that they came and took him from home till he came out. It was a very emotional time, and there was a lot of stress happening on all fronts.
Yeah.
The travels from Alexandria to Cairo, many times every month, trying to do visitations, and then they also played a very psychological game. They would tell you that they're going out, they're going to release him today. So you get so excited and you get in your cars and you leave and you go to Cairo and you stand in front of the jail the entire day waiting for them to come out, and it's like, oh no, sorry, we're not coming, they're not letting them out. So you go back to your old mood of sadness, and then a couple of weeks or 3 weeks later they do the same thing again.
Yeah.
To the point where 7 months later, when he actually got out, we wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got a call from one of the ministers in the cabinet at the time, and I picked up the phone and he says like, I am this person. Can I speak to your mom? I was like, sure. So I called mom and she came and talked to him. It's like, after she was done talking to him, I was like, Mom, what happened? She said that he told me that they're coming out today, but I don't think I believe this till I see him.
Right.
So we got in the car and we drove out to Cairo, and then even when after he came out and we were at my grandfather's house, he was like, am I actually here?
Yeah, I can only imagine
so
after an experience like that.
Very, very tough time.
Yeah,
Very tough time, and I hope to God that the church never goes through this again. The whole church was in agony. The whole church was in prayer. The whole church was fasting times and times over and over again.
Yeah.
Even during time where there was no official fasting in church, but they would ask for 3 days of fasting here and there, because you hear news and most of the news is incorrect. So they would tell you one thing, but the reality of it turns out to be something completely different.
And do you think the situation over there is getting any better?
Oh, it's completely different now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Although I want to tell you that some of these seeds that were planted during this time still reside in the hearts of a lot of people. So it's a very tough time trying to accepting the others. I mean, we have a lot of illustrations of that, including the priests that were martyred just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So that's not 40 years ago. We're talking about 5-6 years ago, right? Last was Archdeacon Arsani in Alexandria. He was walking with a group of people. Someone came and stabbed him and killed him on the spot for no reason, except that he's a priest. The situation could be a little bit better right now than it was back then, but it's still not as we would like it to be, to where people, have their own freedom to worship whatever they want. Nowadays, building a church is not as difficult as it was at the time. Building churches during Abu Nabshoy Kamil's time, my dad's time, was a very strategic process. You couldn't go and say that we need a church here.
Yeah.
You would never get it. So, for example, Saint Mary and Pope Kyrillos, the first pillar of faith in Cleopatra, Alexandria, it turned out to be right across the street from our apartment.
Oh, okay.
So what they did is they got a piece of land and they had Dad park his car. There's like an alley. So he used to go in, park his car for people to see a priest going in and coming out.
Yeah.
I was just parking his car. So it's a garage.
Right.
And then we use the garage to bring people from St. George, which is like a few blocks away, for like a summer camp. So they would bring some of the kids to play in that playground and put some ping pong tables, some foosball tables, whatever, and have the kids over there. But still the priest is going in and out. Until one day in the morning, Dad wakes me up on a Friday morning, and he says, like really early, like 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that. It's like, go pray with Abuna in the garage. I'm just like, what? So I get up, I take my Tonya, and I, go across, and I find Abuna there with another deacon, and we prayed that liturgy. And then by the time people woke up, there was already a liturgy that was prayed in this land, and it became a church. So it's like almost like stealing a church.
A little bit, yeah.
Right, and it faced so many different difficulties after that, to the point where they were trying to build a wall between the land and what was a governmental building right next door. And they wanted to use this governmental building. Once they felt that this is going to be a church, they built a mosque right there. So they wanted to build a wall between them just to avoid any kind of conflict or clashes or anything. And it was November 16, 1975. And there was a bomb that was put in St. George Sporting. November 16 is the Feast of St. George. And that bomb was put in a very articulate way. It was a Soviet bomb after the 73 war. And it was triggered by a trigger. So someone came in, and at the lower floor of St. George, there is like a hall that has a lot of pews in it. So he took one of the pews and basically tilted it on the pew behind it and connected the wire for the trigger to the tilted pew. So where when you come and put it back, it would basically trigger the bomb, and it would take out the church and everybody in it.
Wow.
So when they discovered that bomb, with God's plan, a big officer from the army was walking in the church when they discovered it. And my dad was down there. They called him and he said, yeah, this is very dangerous. Please close all the doors to this and call the bomb squad. So they closed all the doors for the hall. They continued the liturgy and they called the bomb squad. And the funny thing, or how Abuna Bishoy thinks is like, you know what? This is St. George's work. Because he told St. Mary, you want to build a wall and people will not let you. I will bring them all to my church and let you do your wall as you please. That's what Abuna Bishoy is saying about this incident, because at the time where the entire governmental officials were at St. George because of the bomb, they did a few blocks away, they built the wall. Wow. While these people were here. Otherwise, you wouldn't let them.
And then the bomb didn't
No, this bomb didn't go off.
Yeah.
So St. George Sporting had actually 3 bombs. Only one went off, which is the one that happened on January 6th at night during the liturgy. Wow. And these were 7 sticks of dynamite. And it took down the entire... all the windows. There were plastic woven windows. It took down all this. This is on the women's side. It took it all down. So this was like the blast took it away. But thank God there weren't many injuries in that incident, except for the person who tried to basically stomp on it, trying to put it out. And when it blew off, it took out 3 of his toes. Yeah. Other than that, there were minor injuries from the blast for a few of the people that were standing around. But I'll tell you this. This liturgy, I can never forget. In my whole entire life, I have never prayed the creed as strong as that night. You could feel the structure of St. George Church moving as people were reciting the creed. It's one of the most heavenly liturgies we've ever prayed. I mean, after the bomb went off, or the dynamite went off, Dad went down and basically spoke very firmly with the officer who was standing over there, just letting the traffic go through. And he took the empty dynamite sticks from him, put it in his pocket, went back to pray the liturgy. So he had it in his pocket throughout the entire liturgy. And it was a long story about how police behaves in Egypt in such situations. I don't think it's time for it here, but it shows the deception and the unbelievable carelessness and their evil ways of doing things toward Christians.
Yeah, the more I hear these things, the more insane it is to me that the type of stuff that the churches in Egypt go through.
Yeah, it's a lot better nowadays. I'll tell you this much. They spread rumors that in 1975, Abu Nabshur Kamil is the one who put the bomb in the church.
Wow.
It's to that extent.
Yeah.
It's to that extent. And I don't want to get into the details of the incident of 1980, but again, when they questioned the officer that took the bomb after it happened, he said, "I didn't see anything. All I remember is I came to church and I fainted and I went to a hospital." And it's a governmental hospital, and here's the official letter from the hospital that I went there and I was treated and I came back. So
And do you think
I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything.
And do you think people like that are more afraid of like the repercussion if they do speak the truth?
I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of anyone, but
Right.
I'm just stating facts.
Yeah.
So the fact is, he was lying through his teeth.
Right.
And after that was done, my dad said, like, wait a sec, this is a lie. And the reason is because I went down, I spoke to him, he saw everything, and here's the proof.
Right.
And he took, the shells out and put it on the table in front of the Attorney General.
Wow.
And I was just like,
There's no denying that. Yeah.
it's like, so the guy who's asking questions, it was like, okay, so this is really mesmerizing here. There's a problem.
Right.
So he called the officer again. I was like, what do you think of what Abuna said? And he's like, he's saying the truth. He's like, Abuna's saying the truth? Then why, this is ridiculous. You're an officer of the law. You've studied law. You understand that you keep the evidence till, the police comes and takes the evidence, right? You don't give the evidence to anyone.
Right.
And the guy said, well, let's put the interrogation aside now. I'm going to tell you what happened.
Yeah.
It's like when he came down, I was afraid. Like, what? You afraid of him?
Right.
He doesn't, seem to be fearful, No, at that time he was very fearful.
And can you tell me maybe a bit more about the experiences with Pope Kyrillos and Pope Shenouda?
Well, Pope Kyrillos is, their relationship is very unique. Father Luka used to resemble it like an old man who gave birth to a little baby at his old age. So he would basically spoil him.
Yeah.
That's what the old man would do to his newborn child. So this is the friendship that they had together. He stayed with Pope Kyrillos the entire 40 days, whether it was in the monastery or at St. Mark Cathedral in Alexandria. He gave him and handed down every right to him. And I don't know how to express this, but it was his father.
Right.
So he dealt with him in that manner. And he had special instructions for him. It was like, if you come to Cairo, Father Luke's dad lived in an area in Cairo, while His Holiness used to be also in a different area in Cairo. It's like, you don't go to your dad's first, you come here first. Right? So that was the rule.
Yeah.
And if he broke it at any point of time, Pope Kyrillos would know. It's like, didn't I tell you?
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's this kind of a relationship.
Yeah.
And he had one of the traits of Father Luka is the truth. And truth is Christ. And when you have the truth, you do not fear anything or anyone. What Pope Kyrillos saw in him at the time he wanted to ordain him, we don't know, right? The relationship between them, what we know, is very superficial. But the reality of it, it is a lot deeper than what we can recount.
Right.
These kind of relationships, they never speak about. Because usually, if you speak about it, it goes away.
Wow.
So the little things we know, I'm certain there's a mountain of things that we don't know.
Right, right.
It's like an iceberg, right? You only see the tip, but the bottom is humongous.
Yeah.
That is his relationship with Pope Kyrillos. And obviously there are many stories that reflect on this relationship. He spoke about it in many of the recordings of how he dealt with the Pope and how the Pope dealt with him specifically. And it actually showed a lot of the spirit of the Pope as a father. I'll give you an example. Father Luke was ordained in March during Great Lent. Pope Kyrillos' rituals is that he prayed a very late liturgy from 5 to 7 p.m. And ate very little for that day, and that was it. So he found that Father Luke would wait and pray with him that late liturgy. So he forbade him to do that. It's like, no. That's way too much. You have a long way to go. Don't do this. You pray an early liturgy and you eat. Take care of yourself. Also, Pope Kyrillos' schedule starts at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. where he wakes up and goes down to pray Tasbih. So at the first couple of days, Dad would hear his footsteps, so he would get up and go follow him. So Pope Kyrillos would say, don't do this again. Get a full night of sleep. You wake up 7, 8 o'clock. You don't come that early.
Why do you think he did that?
They don't attain such level in no time. It's a gradual progress and growth.
Right.
And he said why, the reason for it is like, you have a long way ahead of you. Yeah. You cannot sustain this.
That's interesting.
And so you don't just follow blindly.
Right.
It has to be guided by a spiritual father that would tell you, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do that. Yeah. So we can't go read about how Pope Kyrillos lived and try to live this life without starting from the ground up.
Right.
So you need to have the foundation to be able to withstand this high of a high rise. Yeah. That's a high rise. You cannot decide to do the high rise without the foundation.
Right.
So it has to start from the foundation. So they have to start small and grow. And this is, even if you read through the Paradise of the Fathers, you'll see that this is how they taught their children. Yeah. One piece at a time. You don't grow a tree overnight.
Right, right.
It takes time. You have to water it every day. And you have to be patient. And then it grows from a tiny little seed to a small plant till it grows to become a tree. So that's the same thing with spiritual life. You can't jump.
Yeah.
You have to take the steps one at a time, and you have to be guided by your Father to be able to do that. So that's the relationship with Pope Kyrillos. Again, we have so many stories, but again, for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to Pope Shenouda. Pope Shenouda, they had also a very unique relationship, although different than Pope Kyrillos. They understood each other, and they spoke to each other in a very special way. So they had a certain communication between the both of them that was not apparent in front of people. So in a lot of situations, they had their one-on-ones where they ran into so many different difficulties that they were trying to solve. Issues that he wanted to send, Pope Shenouda wanted to send Father Luka to handle in certain situations and certain things. So he trusted him a lot. Their relationship of love was till the last day, to the point where when His Holiness departed, and by the way, Pope Shenouda departed on March 17th, which is Father Luke's ordination.
Wow.
And it was a Saturday. On Sunday, he flew to Egypt to attend the funeral. So again, their relationship was very close, and we got the blessing to spend so much time with His Holiness when he used to come to California.
Yeah.
Very, very close, very amicable, non-formal sittings where Sayyidina was very at ease, and we had many discussions and conversations and stories.
Yeah. Yeah, see, there's something you said, you referred to people's spiritual life as like growing a tree, right? And
Yes.
not to get too ahead of yourself. How do you stop that thought process of like, I'm not where I want to be yet spiritually, so I'm kind of like beating myself up about it?
That's the church has made this very easy for us. We don't make these decisions ourselves. These decisions, if we are with our spiritual father and he knows our growth, he could tell us where and when and what to do.
Yeah.
So it's always been the case in the entire church. None of the saints that we know and we revere have done this by themselves or on their own. They always had a spiritual father, and they always listened to the spiritual father no matter what. Again, comes to mind right now, St. John the Short, when his spiritual father told him to take a stick, put it in the ground, and walk a couple of miles every single day to water the stick. Logic would tell me, this is illogical. Right. This is a stick. What am I going to do with this? You can water it from here to Timbuktu, and nothing will happen to that stick, right? But faith and obedience has created one of the trees that we still have today in the monastery. Yeah. It's the tree of obedience from
Is that
St.
the
John.
one in Egypt?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe when the last time I went to, I seen that one.
Yeah. This was a stick.
Yeah.
That's a stick, amazing. A dead stick, piece of wood.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me you want to take a piece of wood and water it.
Yeah.
Have fun.
So why do you think it's so hard for some people to comprehend the idea of miracles or supernatural things like that happening?
It is not about that. Christianity is not about miracles and about, people walking around, moving mountains.
Right.
And that's what Father Luka basically wanted to bring to everyone's attention, is that saints are not necessarily walking around on cloud nine and they're flying things around. It's not supernatural. No, saints are people who live in Christ, by Christ, through Christ. It's not about miracles or supernaturals. Some saints got that talent, right? But it doesn't mean that this is the only way saints are.
Right.
So supernatural stuff do happen. Yes, they do. But it is not a measure that we put Or I'm sorry, I'm missing vocabulary here. I want to say it's not a condition
Right.
for holiness
Right.
or for sainthood.
Yeah, I guess my question is more in the sense of like, some people just do not believe that that's possible, right? And is that an issue where maybe their heart isn't open, or they're too like intellectually, logically thinking about it to where it's not something they can comprehend?
Okay. Let me, sorry. Let me recollect a story on that same matter.
Yeah.
Father Luke went to talk with a famous physician here in California one day. And the physician thought that Abuna was going to collect some money from him. And that was not the reason at all. That's one of the things that Father Luke never did, is like go people to ask for money. He cared more about their spiritual life. So he told him, listen, Abuna, tell me how much you want and I will give it to you, but don't talk to me about miracles and supernatural stuff. I am a physician. I see people die, and when people die, they're dead. That's it. We're done. No, nothing. So the answer that Father Luke did was, he found that physician had a thermometer in his pocket. So he reached out and picked that thermometer out of the physician's pocket and started measuring the table with the thermometer. So the physician was like, what are you doing? So Father Luke responded, I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I'm measuring with the wrong tool. So the guy was like, I don't know what to tell you. Measuring with the wrong tool. I'm trying to use my mind and my logic to comprehend what is not comprehensible by that tool.
Right.
It's like when you go to partake communion, what do you see? Oh, I see an Urbana.
Right.
But what do you believe? I believe that this is the body of Christ. Well, again, that's a different tool.
Right.
If I am going to use my eyesight and my logic and my understanding as a human, there's no possible way that this is body of anyone. It's bread.
Right.
So you tell me this is not bread? Just use the right tool.
Yeah, that's such an interesting way to put it. And also, too, I wanted to touch on the relationship between Father Matthew the Poor as well.
The Father Matthew the Poor had a big effect on a lot of the clergy at the time, including Abuna Bshoy Kamil, Abuna Tadrus, and Abuna Lu'a. There is a lot of love and respect, and Abuna Matthew, Father Matthew, was a very spiritual man. And this is the part that the three priests mainly concerned or concentrated on, is the spirituality. And their relationship was extremely valuable. Father Matthew, actually during the time of imprisonment, he would send a monk every month with a basket of different goods for our house, as taking care of us while my dad's not around. But that's from just a personal perspective, but that's not the relationship they had. The relationship was way higher than that. The the time they spent together in prayers and in contemplation was a lot, whether it was in the monastery or in Alexandria. And that's during the papacy of Pope Kyrillos and Pope Shenouda. And they even tried to mend the relationship. Both Abu Nabshoy and Father Luka, they tried to, bring them closer, and it didn't work out. But it's okay. The main purpose of their relationship is spiritual. Yeah. They were nourished when they met. They fed on each other's spirituality, and it grew even more as their relationship grew closer and closer.
That's beautiful. And how did all of that, or when did you decide that that's the route like you kind of wanted to take as well?
I never decided on any route. We all our lives have been designed and crafted and planned by him. And I never personally even thought about going into this career, if you want to call it a career, because it's not a career. Right. It's merely a service, and it's a washing of feet. And I know I don't deserve this, and I never thought I would be in the position I am today, except through the grace of God. And all ranks of priesthood is a calling. My belief is if anybody seeks it, they would fail. That's my understanding and my belief. All the things I've seen and I've heard, including my dad's own life, it was not seeking any of that. But when there is a calling, you cannot say no. Again, a lesson from his own personal life. His plan was to go to the monastery with his colleague. And his colleague was Ambabshoy of blessed memory. And that was their plan. They were both instructors in the University of Alexandria, and they were colleagues, and they would spend a lot of time praying and contemplating and reading books. And their plan was, it's the monastery. Yeah. And then when the calling came for my dad to priesthood, he was not happy about it. To the point where when they went to visit Pope Kyrillos before the ordination, him and my mother as his betrothed, he was thinking on the way to the monastery, I know quite well that Pope Kyrillos will not ordain anyone unless they are well versed in Coptic and they know hymns. And I don't know either. So he's going to ask me that question, and I'm going to tell him, I don't know not a single word. And his response to that would be, okay, go. When you learn, come back, and we'll ordain you. Right? And his thought was like, if he says that, I'll let her go, and I'll just go to the monastery. So he goes in, and that's the question that I was asked by Pope Kyrillos. The exact same word for word. Do you know Coptic and hymns? I know not a single word. I know it's okay, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. And he was like, oh my gosh, now I'm stuck.
So he didn't want to.
No,
Seems like it would be an incredibly big responsibility. as well as a complete
Again,
lifestyle change.
Again, when you put your life in God's hands and you let Him decide what He's going to do with you,
Yeah.
He's the one who carries. I don't think any of the clergy, as humans, can carry what they are carrying today. But the grace of God and Him carrying it on their behalf. Because they take everything and put it on Him, on the altar.
Yeah.
And the Lord carries. The Lord does. The Lord is the one who executes. The Lord, if one gives his life to the Lord, then the Lord speaks on their tongues.
Amen.
Again, one of the reasons Father Luke's sermons were so powerful is that he let the Spirit lead him to what he needs to say.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and many of the clergy would attest to that, is like he would be going to speak to in a meeting, and he was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's genuine about it. Like sometimes I would be driving him somewhere, it's like, what should I talk to them about? I was just like, you're asking me?
Right.
Right? And he would, you know, yeah, he's very well versed. He knows his Bible. He knows the Scripture pretty well, and the Lord has given him the gift of making the connection, and then delivering the food to Christ's people, to His flock. It's food. It's not about theory. It's not about knowledge that we consume and just like deliver a lecture. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's a life that you live, and then you show people by living it, and then you speak of what you've lived. So when you speak out of experience, it becomes much more effective to the people who are listening to you.
Yeah.
Versus when you speak theory.
Right,
Okay?
right.
Theory is theory.
Right.
Right.
I guess, yes, speaking of that point, the last thing I guess I want to ask is, how do you determine which thoughts and feelings are yours, which ones are from God's, and then which ones are from Satan? Like, how is it for you to have that type of discernment, to be able to tell the difference? Or what is a good way to navigate those thoughts?
Okay. So if I get a thought, in general, I believe that internally the Holy Spirit will guide us
Right.
to tell us which is of God and which is of not of God. And we can tell. I mean, if I'm asked to go to a place, okay, that's a thought. Can I take Christ with me? Can He be in my hand next to me where I'm going? Can I say those things in His presence? Can I think these thoughts in His presence? If I feel His presence with me all times, I got the solution.
Right.
I can't deceive myself, right? Yeah, it's okay. No, it's not okay.
Yeah.
A wishy-washy, it doesn't work. You got to be clear. He's there. He's here. If I see Him in front of me, and I would basically, when I speak to the youth, I ask them, if Abuna is standing next to you, you'll think twice about saying some things.
Right.
You'll think twice about going places. You can go up the ladder, right? So if Christ is actually with me, the answer to this question is very simple.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe we overcomplicate it sometimes.
Yeah. It's very simple. Christian life is very simple. Christ said, and that's one verse that I really love. If you love me, you keep my commandments. That's all. If we can live by that,
Yeah.
will just show His love. And it'll be very apparent to everybody that we are His. And He said they would see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So Christian life is not a theory. It's not a myth. It's not a few rules that we put together and we should abide by the rules. No.
Yeah.
No. It's one rule. One rule. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Archdeacon Arsani. I really, really enjoyed this talk.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
your
well,
time. I
maybe one day
appreciate
we
it.
can do it again.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I've taken a lot of your time.
No, not at all. Thank
I've
you.
spoken a lot, actually.
No, this was beautiful. Thank you
has
so
flown.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.